portion, this entire portion in the Zohar. So the Parsha is Shelach, the story of the spies. And the Zohar says like this. So we know that the story is that there were 12 Messiah, there were 12 of the leaders of the community. They were specially chosen, or some say that they chose themselves, that went as spies. Not exactly as spies, but Lasar Sa'aretz, to see the land, which he spoke about many times in the past, to go see the land. Risim Sa'aretz, to see the land, if it's a good land, if it's a land of plenty. And the story is that 10 of them come back with a negative report and say that the land is too strong, the people are too powerful, it's an impossibility to enter into the land. And 2 of them, Yehoshua and Kalev, say that they quiet down the people, and they say that no, we could enter, and if Hashem promised us to enter into this land, and the land is a land of milk and honey, in the land of Eretz Yisrael, land of Israel, then certainly we can enter. So the Zohar says like this: Kaden Kalev have b'doichaka. Kalev was in a difficult situation, in a tsar, in a hardship, in a bind. The mission to go see the land and to report of its beauty and its plenty seems to go awry, and seems that it's misdirected. And the 10 other ones besides him and Yeshua, which Yeshua was blessed by, got a special blessing, a special bracha, a name change by Moshe. So he was in a bind, and he saw that it was difficult. The situation was difficult. It was compromising. It was a compromised situation. Amar Ma'avid, he says, what should I do? Ha-Yeshua az b'siyati la de Moshe. The Yeshua, my companion, went with a tremendous spiritual help from Moshe Rabbeinu, because Moshe himself gave him a blessing. The Shadban or the Sira, because Moshe shone to him the light in the moon. Because Moshe himself was the sun. Sages say that the difference between Moshe and Yeshua, Yeshua is one that takes over Moshe, is that Moshe is compared to the sun, and Yeshua, which is the reflection of Moshe, the pure student, like Moshe Masayich Oilai, that he never left the presence of his teacher, of his Rebbe, that he's considered like the moonlight, that's the reflection of the sun. So Yeshua, who received the light of the sun, that's the light of perfection and wholeness, he was going with this light. He was able to be in a position, spiritual in position, to withstand the trial and the turbulation of this difficult moment and to come back with a positive report. But Kalev, Ma'avid Kalev, what did Kalev do? Ishtamit Minayov, he separated himself from them, which obviously means on a literal level, physically, he separated himself, but also on a mental, spiritual, and inner level, he separated himself from the other 10. And then he went to pray, to connect with his ancestors, to pray at the gravesite of Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and Kevarach. He went to pray there in Hebron. And over there he prayed his prayer, which means he tried to connect himself with his ancestors, just like Yeshua was connected with Moshe Rabbeinu. Chalev went and prayed at the gravesite and experienced some type of Ibur, impregnation, and he connected himself with the Avos, with the holy Avos, with Avram and Yitzchak and Yaakov, Abraham, Isaac and Jacob. So the Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Amar Rabbi Yehuda said, that Yehoshua, Kalev took a different path than the other 10. Va'akim shvilim, and he went through difficult passageways. He carved out difficult passageways. Omata karvan devun, and he came to the place of the burial site of his ancestors. V'istakim b'gameo, and even endangered himself. And he went through, because he encountered the giants, whatever this means. The giants, these powerful men. which means he took a detour and he separated himself from the Meraglim, from the other 10, and he pushed himself. And then the Zohar says something very special. Avaman the iu b'doichaka, someone that is in a compromised situation, someone that's going through an assignment, someone that's going through a challenge and a trial, someone that's going through a hardship, lo yistakel midin, doesn't look too deeply, doesn't look at all the details. Kach kalev, the same thing also kalev. Begin to have a b'doichaka lo yistakel midin. Because he was in a compromised situation, lo yistakel midin, which means he didn't not overthink it, but didn't look too deeply. What does that mean? That a person that is in bedoichek, someone that's in a compromised situation, doesn't look too deeply. What does it mean he doesn't look too deeply? What does this mean? So on one level, just in a general sense, not specifically corrected to this, is that in life, sometimes we have a certain idea, a certain conception, a certain even a premonition that we should be doing this thing in life. Maybe it's a new job. Maybe it's to move it to a certain place. Maybe it's to buy a certain home. There's certain things in life, some big life decisions that we have to make throughout life. And sometimes we engage with this decision. We decide we're going to go ahead and do this thing, and we encounter challenges, struggles, obstacles. What do we do, and how are we supposed to relate to these obstacles? We've spoken about this in the past, but to bring this out, this is this point. And a person faces these obstacles. What should a person do? There's two things that a person can think, two ways how a person can connect to these obstacles. One is that the obstacles are just a challenge, and the challenge is just a hurdle. And the point of the challenge is to bring out deeper resources within yourself to overcome those challenges. So if you have an obstacle, you say, I need to move to this place. I think it's the right decision. I want to go here. Or I need to buy this home, or I need to take this new job. And then there's various obstacles that show up and hardships that come up. So you can say, what is it telling me? It's an aside, it's a test. And what it really means is that I have to dig deeper and pull out deeper resources within myself to overcome those challenges. And that's the intention. That's what Hashem wants from me. That's one way of understanding. The other way of understanding is actually the reverse, to say, I'm trying to do this particular thing. I'm trying to buy this particular home. I'm trying to get this new job. I'm trying to move to a certain place, whatever the thing that you're trying to do. And all of a sudden, there's a lot of different obstacles. And there's things that are very compromising and challenging, things that you didn't expect. So maybe what this is showing you is that you should stop. Maybe that's Hashem's way of telling you that since you want this thing and there's obstacles, and Hashem put the obstacles in your life, so maybe what you're supposed to do is say, okay, that's proof that I have to stop. So how do you know when a challenge is meant to overcome and to achieve your goal? And how do you know when the challenges and the struggles or the trials that you're experiencing is actually is spiritually a sign from above to tell you to stop? This is not the right thing for you to do. So the Shelach writes, and this is a deep teaching that's brought down in many other sources as well, that it depends on your level of conviction, which means if you know something absolutely that this is the right thing, which means logically, and you thought about it and you came to this conclusion, and maybe even spoke to a wise person, I say like a Rav, you spoke to your Rebbe, and you came to a certain conclusion, this is the right thing to do, and it makes sense, and everything makes sense, all the numbers make sense, and it's the right thing for you to do. It's good for you on a physical level, on a mental level, on an emotional level, on a spiritual level, on all levels of your being. This is the right decision for you to make. And then a challenge shows up. So there's a certainty within yourself that you know this is the right thing to do. And then there's the uncertainties of life that come about. Then what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to overcome those challenges. You have to say that the certainty of my conviction that I know is true, as much as a person could know. And you need a lot of siyata d'shmaya. Of course, you need a lot of divine help for this to come to this decision. But you do come, and it does make sense, and it's logical. And you speak to people, and you speak to your friends, and you speak to you speak to your friends that know the situation, and this is the right thing for you to do. And you ask Das Torah and everything. You come to the right decision. This is the right thing to do. Then, when there's a challenge, the point of the challenge is to dig deeper, to overcome it, to show that you're even stronger. So when there's a certainty within self, don't allow the uncertainties within life to deter you from making your decisions or to following through. That's on one hand. Conversely, if you come to a certain decision, but you're not 100% sure, it's a 50-50, and it's maybe 60-40, but it makes more sense to do this than not to do this. Then, because you're dealing with a level of uncertainty within yourself before you even engaged in the process of unfolding this idea, let the certainty of the world show you that this is a thing that you shouldn't be doing. Which means when you're certain about something, the point of the challenge is to overcome. When you're uncertain about something, or you're on the fence, let the certainty, what arises from the world, which means Hashem is showing you, is telling you that maybe this is a thing that you shouldn't be engaged in. This is not a process that you should follow. This is not something you should get involved with. So that is a way to engage in a way to know the correct barometer. What is something to follow through? What is something to pursue? And what is something to hold back? So this is on one level. That when Kalov was a doichik, this is what the Zohar is saying. Someone that is in a doichik, someone Kalov knows that the right thing is that Klal Yisrael, the people of Israel, have to enter into the land of Israel that was promised to them. Obviously, that's the whole end project of Yetzias Mitzrayim, going out of Egypt, is to receive the Torah and then eventually enter into Eretz Yisrael to practice the Torah in real time and real space. So Kalov knows this, and he knows this is an absolute. And then trials and complications and doichik, hardships, arise. So when a person is in that state, with a certain conviction, they don't allow the situation on hand or the uncertainties that's being presented to push them down and to deter them. On the contrary, it brings out a greater resolve. This is what on one level what the Zohar is saying. That if someone is a doichik and knows that someone's in a hardship, but knows this is the truth that has to be done, lo yistakel midi, doesn't look too deeply. But let's go a little bit deeper, because in the language of the Zohar is that he doesn't look too deeply. What does it mean that he doesn't look too deeply? What does it have to do with looking? So it's interesting, because the entire idea of Moshe sending these meraglim, but they're actually not called meraglim in the Torah. Meraglim comes from the word regel. We've spoken about this in the past. It comes from the feet on the ground, which is to create a conquering of the land of Israel through kibush, through conquer, or in the Biyashniya, like the Rambam writes, the idea of through chazaka, through acquiring it. But that's like a physical thing. You have to walk the land and acquire the land and do an action to make a chazaka. But they were told to do something else. They were told lasser sa'aretz. Lasser means to see the land. Re'isim sa'aretz mahi. And you should see the land and see what type of land. And what do you do when you see the land? Vis chazaktem. So the Torah says you should be strong. That's the way Rashi translates it. But vis chazaktem, also the Targum translates, which means that you should make a chazaka. You should acquire it. How do you acquire this chazaka? Through seeing. Because Moshe is the idea of seeing. Moshe sees Eretz Yisrael. Moshe is the mechina of Riyah, the perfection of Riyah, of seeing. Now, even though technically in the world of halacha is Riyah ba'amal lekani, Riyah through seeing something you don't acquire. So you don't acquire, like the Gemara says, but there's an idea of abata behefker, maybe, like the Gemara says in the end of Mitziyah, that maybe abata behefker, by seeing of something that's ownerless. That's the way a person could acquire, whether Eretz Yisrael is ownerless before Klal Yisrael entered and was kovish Eretz Yisrael. But either way, the idea is that Moshe, who is the Bechinas Riyah, is telling them to acquire the land through seeing. There's idea that they have to enter the land and see the land. And through that they make a chazaka. Through that they acquire the land. Because since are the Rosh Hashanah. These are the head of each tribe, each shevet. So what they're doing really is, and this is also the question of why did it have to be the Rosh Hashanah? Why did it have to be the head of the communities? Why couldn't it be just good people that are spies if they're actually going to spy, to scout out the land? What is the best possible way to enter the land? So take the most clever people that know warfare. Why are they taking the head of the community, the Rosh Hashanah? Why are they taking the heads of each community? And each one represents their sheva, their tribe, because what they're doing is they're acquiring for their tribe. Each one is acquiring for that tribe, for that shevet. And they have an ibur from each of the meraglim, each of the spies has, like the Arizal speaks about this, has an ibur, has an impregnation from Reuven, the child of the shevet Reuven. Reuven himself, the child of Yaakov, becomes impregnated into the spy that comes from the tribe of Reuven, and the same thing forward. So this is the idea of acquiring the land. In fact, the Gemara says that Shluch Shalom K'maisei, one of the sources that say that the Gemara in Kiddush Mambei says that one of the sources for Menayin, how do we know that Shluchim Shalom K'maisei, that a messenger of a person is like himself, is Nasei Echad. That it says that he was each member of each head of the community acquires it for the entire each head of that tribe, of that shevet, acquires for the tribe. The Gemara also speaks about Hefker Bez and Hefker and Yivomus Haviktas. And Peitas also talks about this idea of that just like parents bequeath are Yeresh Matchilim to their children, the same thing goes to Rosh Ovis, the same thing goes to the head of the tribes. So there's the idea that they're acquiring it. And how do they acquire it? Through seeing. So the project of the Meraglim, we spoke about this at great length previously, but so the project of the idea of the Meraglim was to see. And in fact, they go there and they're looking at the land. But when they come back and they report what they saw, they say, "V'shamar inu mazanafilim." There we saw the great mighty men. And all the people that we saw there were very powerful people, measured people that have weight and measure, strength. So this is what they're coming to see. And what was their downfall was that they were looking too closely. They were mistakel midi. They were looking too closely. What that means is, sometimes, and let's translate this in terms of life and see what the difference between Yeshua and Kalev is. Sometimes we have a certain vision or a certain idea of what we need to achieve in this world, a certain project that we want to go ahead with, and we write it out, and it makes sense, and this is the right thing to do. But what holds us back sometimes is that once we already secure an idea, this is what we have to be doing, and this is a big idea, we get bogged down by micro-thinking about every single detail that has to unfold. And I'm talking about more in ruchnius, more in spiritual things, spiritual movements. A person has a certain vision. I'm going to, let's say, a person has a big desire. I'm going to finish Shas this year. I'm going to learn the whole Talmud this year. Or I'm going to learn Chassidus. I'm going to practice that every single day. I'm going to learn a full mimer. And then he starts saying, okay, but how exactly am I going to do that? And when sometimes the overthinking or overanalyzing the details doesn't allow you to ever start anything new, because you have an inspiration and you have a push to do something, but you get stuck in Vishamar Inu, and now I'm looking here, I'm looking there. There's a difference between Re'inu, let's say it a little different. There's a difference between seeing something and be mistakel. Now they're both Hebrew, Aramaic words, mistakel, but the idea of Re'inu, to see, istaklus, the idea of istaklus, of seeing, is to focus and to hone on into the details. There's certain prohibitions that Chazal say is also listakel. A person not to be mistakel. Mistakel doesn't mean to see. Sometimes you see it's like a certain gazing, just like you're looking deeply. There's one type of thing I'm seeing whatever I'm seeing in this world, but then there's something that I start gazing and penetrating and trying to think about it. I go further into the details. This is istaklus. The prohibition of certain things is the istaklus in things. So the Zohar is saying, is mandi b'doichik as someone that is in a hard situation or a difficult situation, or in a challenge, loy mistakel midi, he doesn't look deeply into the things. What that means is that whereas the 10 spies, and they were all told to look, they were told the land, they were already promised, and there was already a prophecy that the land is a land of milk and honey. The land is meant for Eretz Yisrael, it's meant for Klal Yisrael, it's meant for the people of Israel, it's meant to be our land. It's the place of where the Vuah will be shared. It's the place of prophecy, the place where we can unfold ourselves, unfold our national selves in a collective way, in a spiritual way, in a holy way. So they knew this when they left Egypt, and they knew this, and they believed that. And in that moment that they were sent, they were ksheim, they were correct. Even though they had maybe negative tendencies, like Chazal say, you can read into their names that it can represent different things. And Sayyid Gemara says it can represent negative tendencies, but the negative tendencies can also be pushed into the positive way, which means that they came with a certain conception that this is the right place, this is a good place. So they came, but when they came into the land, there was something in their psychology, and we have to understand why. There was something within them that they started looking too deeply, started getting into the gritty parts and looking into that detail and that detail, and then all of a sudden they became afraid and became scared, and they looked themselves as cockroaches, as small chagovim, as small roaches. And they also believed that the other people saw them as this way, or they heard them saying that they saw them this way, but they felt very small, they felt very reduced. They came because they started overthinking it. But Yeshua and Kalev also came and saw the land. But the loy mistakel midi, they saw there was hardships, and they saw that there was difficulties, and they said, we're not going to focus in the smallness and the minutia of the details and get discouraged. Because we have the big vision, and I see generally, okay, that's the right thing to do. I'm going ahead and do it. Both Yeshua and Kalev, the way the Torah describes them is that they had a certain ruach. With Kalev, it says, Ekev Kalev hoy ruach acheres, that the Kalev had a different ruach, a different spirit, a different wind. And later, when Yeshua is chosen to be the person that takes over Moshe Rabbeinu to lead Klal Yisrael, it says also there that Isha Sheruach, by a person that has wind, has ruach. Ruach means a certain lightness, a certain wind, a certain lightness, not to overindulge and contemplate into all the details. You see the good, you see, and you move forward. And I think this is a big lesson in life in general. When a person, we should be only zoicha to have a certain vision that's prophecy. But even from now, we know certain things in our life. This is the right thing to do. This is the right move that we have to take. Certainly in spiritual matters, or even in marriage, a person needs to marry somebody, or needs to go to get a new job. Whatever a person is doing in this world, whether spiritually or in terms of relationships, I understand this is the right person. Let's say talking about this, I get this is the right person. I see it, and I like what I see. I'm not going to start mistakel midi, start to knit, in the nitty gritty, and start looking to every single detail. I get it. This is the right thing to do. I'm going to get into it. This is going to be doichik. Maybe this is going to be hardship, but I'm not mistakel midi. I'm not going to get bogged down into the details and to analyze every single detail. Not every single detail has to be worked out right away. I have a vision. I know this is the right thing to do. I'm going to go forward. And this is what Yeshua and Kalev, they had a certain ruach, they had a certain spirit, a certain wind, a certain openness, that they were like mistakel midi. Sure, they also looked, because that was the project. The project is Risa. You should go see the land, and you should observe the beauty of the land and the plenty of the land with your own eyes. And they did see it. But instead of unlike like the other ones that were getting bogged down in all the small minutiae of the details and saying, oh, but that doesn't work out, and this is very hard. They said, okay, I got it, yeah, but we'll work it out. We'll figure it out as we go along. We're gonna manage. We have Hashem on our side, and we have a vision. And this is very important in life, because sometimes overthinking and overanalyzing things don't allow us to actually accomplish anything in this world, whether it's physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, any project we have to take. So sometimes when we're clear, and there's doichik, but there's hardship, al tastakel me, they don't look too deeply. I have a certain vision. I see this is the right thing to do. I know this is the right thing to do. My soul is telling me. My neshama is telling me. I spoke to people. I spoke to my good friends. I spoke to a rabbi. I spoke to my rabbi. I know this is the right thing to do. I don't know exactly how the details are going to work out, or every single detail. And because you never know, because life could always present itself with other details. This is the right thing to do. This is the right person to marry. I'm going to jump in. Have a wonderful Shabbos.